On a cold wintry night, we tell the tale of the final days of Marilyn Monroe. Was it an accident, suicide, or murder? She was caught in a spider web between the mafia, political elites, and show business personalities, all with their own agendas. She held many secrets. Here she is by the pool of her final film, Something's Got to Give. It was half completed, and you can find her in her final best scenes on YouTube. Let's get into it. There's an old showbiz tale that Richard Nixon, when he was vice president in the late 50s, took the biggest TV star around, Jackie Gleason from the Honeymooners, on a private little mission. And they went to an airport hangar and an Air Force base, high security, but they got right through based on who they were. And he took Gleason to this hangar and showed him an alien, a UFO. And this story is widely told in showbiz circles. I don't know if it's true or not, but there was quite a connection between political elites and showbiz elites in the 50s and 60s, and the press really did not report about much of it. Even affairs and things like that were hush-hush. It was a different time. Certain things were off the table. So Marilyn Monroe and JFK, at the very least, they were friends and knew each other. At the most, they had a full-blown affair. And even throw in Robert Kennedy, he knew her as well, at the least. And so it's possible, or quite likely, actually, I think, that JFK told her many secrets and they swapped stories between showbiz and politics. She may have known all about the Cuban Missile Crisis and UFOs or aliens, and she may have given him lots of showbiz secrets as well. And this era is so important to researchers in our field because the Cuban Missile Crisis leads to the biggest conspiracy of all, which can be proven, and that's Operation Northwoods. And this is a document, you can look it up, where our Joint Chiefs of Staff were going to send up a plane. It was going to be a hoax of Americans, and the U.S. was going to shoot down its own plane and blame it on Cuba, or by proxy the Russians, and get us into a very dangerous military conflict. So it's important to read the documents, show people Operation Northwoods. Conspiracies are real, and this is an example. This plan made it all the way up to JFK's desk, and he did not approve of it. JFK was a patriot. So in the summer of 1962, Marilyn had made it through lots of films and high-pressure situations, but was a hardcore addict of pills at this time, laced with alcohol often to make them work faster or work better. And this was a formula used by Judy Garland and Elvis Presley and lots of performers under high-stress, high-demand situations where they had to perform on cue and get it right. So the pills were not working that well for her anymore. After a while, they're not as effective. They make you irritable, irrational. You have good days and bad days, highs and lows. So she missed much of the filming of the movie Something's Got to Give, and could not get up in the morning to get ready and perform, and was not on a regular sleep cycle. But when she was there, she could perform at an extremely high level, just like others like Elvis, etc. So they fired her from the film. She spent that summer in kind of a hazy netherworld. There's lots of pictures of her with a distant look in her eyes. She apparently was fighting with the Kennedys, and I read a book called The Final Years, Marilyn Monroe by Keith Badman. Excellent book. His conclusion of the night she died is something I agree with. He has her phone records. So going by the phone records, he pieces together what happened. And basically, he believes Robert Kennedy was there that day in her house, that last day. They were fighting, they were quarreling. She probably wanted to go public in some way, or maybe give an interview, or use her power, or threaten the Kennedys. And they were trying to cut her out of their lives and move on, and keep everything private and quiet. And most likely, the fight was something to do with that. And then they left in a big hurry. A policeman actually he pulled them over for going like 90 miles an hour away from the house, Peter Lawford and Robert Kennedy, and they were very embarrassed, but the policeman was a witness to them fleeing the house. And she was in hysterics after they left, according to Keith Badman's book, and calling different people and turning to pills, and as she did in times of crisis, and took apparently quite a big or the wrong combination of, pills or sedatives. And I believe she was mixing chloral hydrate with pills as well. So just a combination that did not work. And the phone call where she was actually going under in a drug haze was to Peter Lawford. This was around 8 p.m. on Saturday night. And she was slurring, and he was trying to make sense of her. And she was saying, well, say goodbye to everybody and come on over. And he said, I can't. I'm in the middle of a dinner party. Just pull yourself together. Hang on. And she actually was going under during this phone call and kind of barely hung up and tried to make one more call. Like, she left a message to her massage therapist, come help me. I'm kind of having trouble here. And just garbled a message, and that was it. She went under. And the maid did not find her till midnight. By then it was way too late. So most likely that's what Keith Badman feels happened, and I agree with that, based on reading his book. And many years later, the maid finally talked. She held her silence or told different stories, but she finally sat down with the BBC, and she said, look, Robert Kennedy was there that day, and they had a big fight and a quarrel, and Marilyn was just agitated. She was not a balanced person, and turning to the medications to solve her problems. It was a perfect storm, a terrible combination that led to her death, a day and an evening of high tragedy. So, definitely, that was a period of time where, like, she knew mafia people, and they were hanging out in Lake Tahoe at this place called the Cal Navid Lodge, and she knew the mafia people and Frank Sinatra, who knew mafia people, and the Kennedys socialized definitely with show business personalities at that time. So we're never going to know all the secrets, and the press, kind of like I said, backed off. It was a time of mystery and intrigue, and we'll never know her secrets. She supposedly had a red diary, but that was either scooped up quickly, or it was lost to history. We'll never know what was in that diary. But you can look at the final pictures of her life. She's kind of wandering around a beach and taking some shots. There's a lost look in her eyes. At that point, she's probably hopelessly in a convoluted problems with very powerful people, and you can see it in her eyes if you look at these last photos of her. So the film shows she could still hit her best acting peaks and still perform at her best. Something's got to give if you watch it, the first half that was filmed. And it's really an intriguing time, the early 1960s, which was a real crossroads. And I'll recommend one more book about JFK's passing called Crossfire, and it's by Jim Marrs. And Jim Marrs, I met him several times before he died. He's a tough Texas newspaper man, and he really helped me understand our hidden past, our hidden history in the United States and the world. And please check out the books of Jim Mars as well, Crossfire, and Keith Badman's book, Marilyn Monroe, Her Final Years. And check out my site, Mystery Islands, and my store, my films, all of my works are there. Namaste. Have a good evening. Good night, Marilyn.